The WNBA semifinals is now set. We'll have New York against Las Vegas, also Minnesota against Connecticut. In round one, we had some fun moments, some good games. Obviously, no upsets. It was a clean 2-0 sweep in every series for the higher seeded team. But to look ahead to round two, we have New York against Las Vegas. New York beat Atlanta in 2 games. First game was a blowout, pretty much. Game two, Atlanta led a large part of that game. New York came back and won it, 2-0 sweep. But for Las Vegas, in game one against Seattle, Asia struggled early. They were still in the game. It was like tied during the half in game one. They still won. Chelsea turned it up. Asia turned it up in the second half. They also won game two. Las Vegas enters this series on an 8-game winning streak, playing their best basketball of the season. But if there's any team that's had their number this season, it's New York. New York, clean sweep. They won all 3 regular season matchups. Also, for a look at how opponents defended Las Vegas, New York had a 92.8 defensive rating against Las Vegas in the regular season. That was by far better than any other team, even Connecticut, even Minnesota. So this New York defense did extremely well against Las Vegas in those games, won all 3 games. Obviously, you can't take a lot from that. In one of those games, Asia didn't play. Chelsea has been not the most healthiest she's been all season, but she's now ramping it back up more than she has to start the season. But also, Sabrina did not play well in those 3 games against Las Vegas. Against Atlanta, though, in the playoffs in round one, 27 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 50% from 2, and 44% from 3 on 9 threes per game. Also made all of her free throws, like 11 total between the 2 games. It's a super fascinating series. You have New York, who has been dominant all season, and you have Las Vegas, who has won 2 straight championships, have the talent, they have the resume as well. There's so many fun small matchups within the game here, but one thing I'm looking at with this series is how Chelsea Gray plays. If Chelsea Gray plays extremely well, I think Las Vegas wins. For some reason, Chelsea's one of those players where whenever she's making a bunch of shots, when she's hot, it just feels like the game's over. I don't know if that makes sense, but Chelsea, whenever she is hot, you can't guard her. It doesn't matter if you have a hand in her face, with her size, with her high release point, all of it together, the passing. When Chelsea Gray is going, the rest of this team is going. On the other side, my question for New York is a little bit different. Like, I think New York has more ways to win. I think they have more depth. But also, in round one, they won the series. They were a more talented, better group than Atlanta. But the only players to make more than 1 3 in the series was Sabrina and Leonie Febish. If you don't get that same level of play from Sabrina, like in the regular season, for example, New York went 4-5 when Sabrina took 20 shots in a game. If you have Sabrina pressing, you're down late, she's trying to come back, I think that could be a worry for New York. Hopefully, you get Benijah Laney Hamilton making some threes again. Stewie hit some threes. Jonquel Jones can get back to what she did in the regular season as well. Leonie Febish probably doesn't shoot 6 of 7, but if she's still like 35%, 40%, whatever, I think New York is my pick here. New York is what I had going into the playoffs. I had New York in 5. I'm sticking with that now. And then for our second matchup, 2 seed Minnesota against 3 seed Connecticut. In the regular season, Minnesota went 1-2 against Connecticut, and then Connecticut, on the other hand, is the only team to have a winning record against Minnesota this season. Every single team either was 500 or below that against Minnesota. Interesting there, where Minnesota was better against New York, Las Vegas, but not Connecticut. I'm calling this series the Battle of Defense. We're looking at 2 of the best defenses in recent memory. Yes, Minnesota is an awesome offense with Fee, Kayla McBride, Elena Smith, etc., but also this is a look at the best WNBA defenses in the regular season since 2016. Number 3 is this year's Connecticut Sun, and number 5 is this year's Minnesota Lynx. So 2 of the 5 best defenses of the last 9 seasons. So that is what I'm looking forward to most with this series. Can Connecticut score enough points is my main question for them. They have DeWanna Bonner, but she is incredibly streaky offensively. Same with someone like Marina Mabrey. She had an awesome series. I'll say that. She's been awesome since she got traded to Connecticut. Has been like their leading scorer, shooting like 40% from three or whatever. If she continues that, that could truly change the series. But also, if she's playing, let's say, like solid, she's like a 35% shooter, isn't amazing, which is also not awful. This could get interesting for me in how Connecticut can stay in games. You have Alyssa Thomas, who can't shoot, Bree Jones, who can't shoot. DiJonai Carrington isn't much of a shooter, like 25% on the season, incredibly streaky. She can go for some like random 3 for 6 games, but overall not a consistent shooter. For Minnesota, you have 4 elite shooters in your starting lineup. I would say Fee's not an elite shooter, but you have 3 elite shooters and then 2 elite mid-range scorers in Napheesa Collier and Courtney Williams. Fee was also an elite shooter in round 1, made like 63% of her threes, averaged 40 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 64% from the field overall, was like 71% at the rim in the half court. Unreal. And her 40 points per game and her 80 points total is the most of any 2-game stretch in WNBA playoff history. Number 1 before that was A'ja Wilson last season. She had like 72 in a 2-game stretch. Also, Fee scored 40 points per game on only 19.5 attempts per game. So Fee is coming into this series playing the best basketball of her life. And another interesting thing I found about their matchups against Connecticut in the regular season was, even though Minnesota had a losing record against Connecticut, Napheesa Collier shot 58% from the field against Connecticut. That is the best of any opponent she faced this season. Also 21 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. So the number one thing overall that I'm looking at for Connecticut this series is how they defend Napheesa Collier in ball screens. And not even just ball screens, like any screening action, off-ball screening action, pin downs, whatever it is. Because with this Connecticut defense, I would describe it as being like the most aggressive in the league. It's like them in Seattle in terms of like who defends the most aggressive on ball screen coverages. You have Alyssa Thomas, who is blitzing a bunch of ball screens. So what Minnesota likes to do with their offense is use Fee as a screener. I'll overlay some film here. You use Fee as a screener to generate mismatches. So if Alyssa Thomas starts a possession guarding Fee, the screen comes, AT switches, then you have like DB, Bree Jones. Bree Jones is less athletic. Her feet aren't as quick to defend Fee off on the ball. If you have DB on her, DB isn't strong enough. She has long arms. She can make plays sometimes if you force her into a jumper. But if she drives, gets to any shot near the rim, it's most likely going in. So for Connecticut, I don't know how much they're going to change this up and try to go no switching, stay on Fee. If you let her get hot, get out in transition, make some plays that way, Fee's going to make plays. You're not going to stop her completely. She's still going to average 20 points in the series. It's how they defend and limit Napheesa Collier. If she can do what she wants, they get the switches, easy points, she shoots like 70% from the field at the rim, this series is going to be over quick, and I think Minnesota could win this series in 3 games. I think that's like the ceiling for Minnesota in the series. The floor is you probably lose in 5 games, is like what I would say. It could happen if Connecticut wins the series. I think it's a 5-game series all the way through. But my series pick is the middle of that. I think Minnesota wins in 4 games. I think Connecticut steals a game. I think Marina Mabrey gets hot 1 game. And then maybe in that same game, DiJonai Carrington goes for like 20 points, a bunch of transition baskets, is active defensively, makes a bunch of plays. They can steal one probably at home, I would say. Still, though, this Minnesota team is incredibly fun. How they play basketball is how James Naismith expected it to be. Shout out Josh Felton. Awesome tweet there. Just how you should play basketball is what Minnesota does. The ball movement, the defensive versatility, how they all play together on both ends. I think Minnesota wins this series, a much more complete team. But as you saw in the regular season, Connecticut did have their number more than any other team. They were okay with Fee making plays and scoring and limiting everybody else. Can that strategy work in the playoffs? We will see. Let me know what your picks are. Who do you think wins this series? Who wins between Minnesota and Connecticut, as well as Las Vegas? in New York. Let me know, subscribe, like this video, and I'll see y'all next time.